You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the day after Christmas. It's live. It's a live show. We're really here in the studio the day after Christmas. Hope you guys had an amazing time, family and friends. I don't know about y'all, but my Christmas season is really just getting underway. People are still coming to town like today, actually. Anyway, all good here in the Rightside studio, and JP's on the board. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. How's your Christmas?
It was great. Santa came and gave me everything I asked for, and then some. So there you go.
No lumps of coal in your stocking?
No lumps of coal this year. We'll see if we can keep that streak going.
Outstanding. All right, well, good. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you. No guests on purpose. I mean, we're coming back for 2 days off. I got a lot of talking to do. So we got plenty of stuff to cover in this Triple Dipper. I mean, plenty of stuff total. So let's hit it.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, relief. All right, what am I talking about? Relief for those who were hit by Hurricane Helene. Is that still a story? Yes. Yes, it is. There are thousands of Americans who are still displaced right now, who don't have a place to live, who are working on what's next. And FEMA is sort of struggling to find its backside with both hands. I mean, it's amazing, but there's still some relief that's coming, and it's mostly coming in the form of private donations and private entities getting busy which is, by the way, which to me is the epitome of what should happen. But we're going to talk about it. Number 1, Triple Dipper, relief. Number 2, all right, so you've heard of Festivus, right? And the annual airing of the grievances. Well, we're going to have the Festivus report. It's an actual thing. The Festivus report is actually put out by Senator Rand Paul every year, and it dictates or defines massive amounts of government wasteful spending. I mean, the waste, fraud, and abuse, y'all, is just at maybe epic new levels. But yeah, he calls it the Festivus report with the airing of the grievances. And so we'll talk about that in more detail as number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, I'm just calling it jackassery because that's what it is. It's one series of jackasseries after another. It's just like a buffet of jackassery. You look at it and go, my gosh. It's just like Santa's sleigh was loaded with jackassery and got sprinkled everywhere. So we're going to talk about several things that are happening. Jackassery, if you're not familiar with the right side lexicon, are decisions made by elected officials or bureaucrats who think they got a good thing going and all they do is make it worse. So jackassery is number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into the Right Side Way opening monologue. And I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald, he is the sponsor daily of the Right Side Way monologue. So I'll tell you more about him in a few minutes. So when I was in high school, my dad and I were sitting in church one Sunday. You ever seen somebody who's trying not to laugh because they know they're not supposed to because it's not appropriate where they are, but they just can't help it? And then because they can't laugh, it just makes it worse. Like you get that almost kind of spasmodic, face scrunching, lips pursed look. Well, that was my dad. We're sitting there in church, and my dad's like shaking, trying not to laugh. Well, I sensed something. I looked over at him, and he had closed his eyes. His shoulders were shaking. He was doing his best not to laugh too hard and make a scene in church. I leaned over, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he caught his breath a minute, and he wiped away one of those laughter tears, and he whispered back, "Look at my feet." So trying not to be too conspicuous, I leaned forward a little bit and looked down, and then it was my turn to have a quiet fit. I mean, it was all I could do to keep it together because my dad was sitting there in church with 2 completely different shoes on. And I don't mean like similar, like not a bit. One was black with laces and the other was like a medium brown loafer. Apparently he'd been getting dressed that morning couldn't figure out which one looked right with his suit, so he put one of each on and then got distracted by a phone call or something and never made it back to the ultimate question. So he went to church oblivious to the fact that he was walking around with shoes that came from two different worlds. I mean, to make it funnier, though, he had already spent the morning in Sunday school, walking around greeting people, being the very visible guy that he was. He was the one who always greeted people at church, and he was everywhere, shaking hands. There's no telling how many people saw his crazy foot fashion and wondered what was up, but didn't nobody say nothing. Well, we laughed about that for years. So my dad's story, I mean, it's good for a laugh, and it wasn't really a big deal. My dad took it in stride. In fact, he laughed at it more than anybody. But you have to wonder if there was someone in the room who called themselves his friend, who saw the shoes and chose to say nothing about it. I mean, why not? Sometimes friendship means honesty, right? Sometimes when you care about somebody, it means telling them things they may not want to hear. But I got to tell you, there's a strong movement out there creating the false narrative that saying something constructive to someone is somehow a bad thing. That's a sentiment that's good for snowflakes in the echo chamber of safe spaces on college campuses, but it is not a sentiment that is good for life. Constructive feedback is actually pretty important. Let me tell you, a good friend, a real friend, is somebody who will tell you something you need to hear, whether or not you want to hear it. And I don't just mean letting you know when you got food stuck in your teeth or when your shoes don't match. I mean, those are important. I'm talking about being there to let you know when you're headed down the wrong path of life. There's a time and a place, and certainly a manner in which the information is delivered is also important. It's also important, too, that you have earned the right to share your candid thoughts. You're not just butting in with no relationship at all to offer unsolicited advice. But if all those parameters are in place, if there's a relationship, if there is the kind of, dialogue between two people that says it's okay to be honest, well, then yes, it needs to happen occasionally. In fact, feedback like that is actually healthy. Sometimes a snowflake needs an honest broker in their life, somebody who will actually speak the truth in love. In my first job out of college, I worked in a rehab center for adolescents. My boss was of the mind that if we were going to be in the business of helping kids understand why they might need to change their behavior, that we needed to be able to do so ourselves. So it was not uncommon for her to make the whole group of us sit around a conference table and give and receive what she called constructive feedback. Yeah. You had to say something positive and something constructive to each person. And it was a royal pain. It felt awkward as all get out. And sometimes it felt like a tooth-pulling session, but ultimately I did see the value in it. Because there are times when maturity and forthrightness and leadership and humility, they all have to kick in so that a person will hear what they don't want to hear. And no amount of cry rooms or safe spaces or trigger-free verbiage or mandated use of pronouns can ever save us from the fact that the world is filled with things that we don't necessarily like and believe it or want it, and we have to be willing to listen to it. So an article came out yesterday that sort of got me going in this thought. An article came out yesterday that described how liberal comedian and commentator Bill Maher has once again criticized what he refers to himself as woke progressives, which is interesting. I mean, not so long ago, I would not have thought of Bill Maher as a guy that would tell liberals what they don't want to hear. But in that vein, it does appear more and more that Maher is just someone who will call it like he sees it. And he's of the belief that the far left wokists are destroying his own political party. Well, this past weekend, Maher did a podcast with comedian Jay Leno. Leno brought up how back in the 70s, black comedian liberal Sammy Davis Jr. had caught a lot of flack for hugging white president conservative Richard Nixon. Apparently, cancel culture happened back then too, as Hollywood liberals cried foul. Well, Maher reacted to Leno telling him that story by saying that it galls him that liberals today are even openly telling people to disassociate themselves from family and friends over the holidays as if they voted for Trump. Maher said that that's one of the things that he hates about the left. His own people. He went on to say in some pretty colorful language that he doesn't ever see himself as a Trump supporter, but at the same time, he is not going to forsake real relationships with people he cares about just because of some misguided sentiment that requires that nobody can ever say something that somebody else doesn't want to hear. How about Tulsi Gabbard? Tulsi Gabbard famously left the Democrat Party, which is significant, by the way, in any event, even more so considering that she was a Democrat member of Congress and she also ran for president as a Democrat. But even when she was still a registered Democrat, she also filed suit against Hillary Clinton for defamation, and she called out her own party on multiple issues. I mean, next thing you know, she was a guest host for Tucker Carlson. She became friends with Donald Trump. She has now been nominated to serve as the Director of National Intelligence as a Republican member of the Trump administration. Go figure. But now we come to the ultimate in safe spaces, and we need to talk about this. The ultimate example of snowflakes being triggered by the very idea that honest brokers might say things that make them uncomfortable. As we wait and watch whether or not President Biden will pardon everyone and everything that he and his ilk have mistakenly believed that Trump doesn't like. We're hearing that Biden is considering massive proactive pardons for people who haven't even been investigated, much less indicted or convicted. People like Anthony Fauci or Liz Cheney or Merrick Garland or Alejandro Mayorkas or Adam Schiff and more. People who need Biden to set up a safe space because they don't want to risk hearing something that makes them uncomfortable. They can't abide by the idea that a Republican Congress might call them to testify, and they would have to hear things they don't like, things that they actually need to hear, things they absolutely need to hear. Biden's pardons are the ultimate example that the left does not like constructive criticism. The left is actually triggered by truth, horrified by honesty, fearful of feedback. In the end, somebody has to say what needs to be said. Somebody has to demand that we be a society that encourages constructive feedback, that encourages healthy debate. That's even scriptural, by the way. And I've quoted it here before, that we are to, quote, be ready at all times to explain why we believe what we believe, but do so with gentleness and respect. That's a slight paraphrase of 1 Peter 3:15. And yes, I do know that that verse is actually talking about explaining our faith, but it's a principle that we can use to extend to anything. But the fact that it reminds us to, quote, do so with gentleness and respect is a clear indication that there are topics that not everybody wants to deal with or hear about. But we are told to discuss them anyway. Yeah, we have got to be willing, got to be able, and allowed, by the way, to say things that need to be said in politics, in family, at work, in life in general. It means being willing to love them enough to make them mad at you. It means being an honest broker. It also means that snowflakes need to step into the real world and be told things they don't like sometimes. But the left has a problem with that. And I'm just saying, it needs to be said. Honest brokers and snowflakes sometimes have to go together. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, there you have it. It really occurred to me that as we're looking at the fact that the left does not like feedback and cannot stand accountability, that Biden's potentially preemptive pardons is just another example of that. He is literally trying to avoid them being told things they don't want to hear. Sad. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Every time I hear that bump, by the way, sweet child of mine, I tell you the story about that.
Your mom listening to it.
My mom, who she texted me one day and said, I love that bump you just played. What was that? And I said, I don't think you're going to like it, Mom. She goes, no, I really think I should. Okay. It's by a band called Guns N' Roses. It's called Sweet Child of Mine. She looked it up on Spotify and she came back. She goes, yeah, it was fine until I heard his voice and then I was done. So,
That's funny.
I guess Axl Rose didn't appeal to her generation.
I would say not. Probably not.
He doesn't appeal to a lot of generations. But wow. Hey, listen, the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. In case you're wondering, yes, we are live. Here's a date timestamp for you. It is right now 2:25 p.m. on December 26th, the day after Christmas. Yes, there it is, proof of life. We are actually in the studio. So join us. Text in. Tell us what's going on. Hey, by the way, I told you a minute ago that the daily Right Side Way monologue is sponsored for you by attorney Stan McDonald. He's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee out of Huntsville. Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran, Stan McDonald is, of the practice of law in North Alabama. And listen, not only will Stan advocate and fight for your legal needs and rights, but he has been an absolute warrior for causes near and dear to the right side ruffian community. I know him personally. I can't tell you enough good stuff about him. So attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in every court, whether it be local, state, or federal. When Stan's on your side, you'll have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries will have no greater foe. So attorney Stan McDonald, if you want to get in touch with him, here's how you do it. Attorney Stan McDonald, law firm Wilmer and Lee, the phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. Do me a favor, tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio, please. And now I got to do that ridiculous thing. You ready? No representation, amazing quality legal services, important girls. I totally botched that one.
You had a couple of days off.
I did.
You got to have your rhythm.
I need more coffee. No representation made. The quality legal services be performed as great. The quality legal service for the lawyers. Something like that.
That was better.
Okay. Which is crazy because we know we're advertising because we think we're the best, right? There you go. Have I got a call on the line?
Yep.
How much time have I got? I got time? All right.
You got about 2 minutes.
David from Madison. How you doing, man?
Hey, Phil, the other day you were talking about that congresswoman that they found in a nursing home. What was her staff doing for the last 6 months?
God knows. I guess they were kicking back and just keeping her social media alive.
Okay.
That
just seems strange.
It's beyond strange, man. It's not only strange, it's ridiculous. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for all I know, they laid off most of the staff. What I do know is one of the articles that was an expose on her went to her office, and the windows were papered over and nobody was home. So for all I know, she has disposed of most of her staff, if not all of them. All I know is she's been missing key votes, and she's been in the dementia ward at a hospital. It's Kay Granger from Texas.
Right. Well, thanks.
All right, man. Thank you. Yeah, that's a massively weird story.
Yeah, it's a bad story.
It's a bad story. It's a bad look overall. I don't care what party you're in. That's awful. It's an abuse of the system. She should have resigned. The incapacity element there that says you have to live in a dementia ward at a nursing home and you're still a sitting member of Congress missing key votes. Look at the narrow margins we have in Congress right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're barely making some of these votes. And they didn't think it'd be important to go ahead and have her resign and leave this. I mean, I don't know what Texas law is. I mean, each state has its own version. I think the states can set the tone for when they do special elections on stuff like Congress. Senate is appointed, a vacancy is appointed by the governor, but the Congress is elected by the people. So whether it be a special election or whatever, but we don't know. I mean, but you got to also know too, if she's been missing since July, the problems predated that. We just went through an election cycle. Could they have had an election during that same ballot measure? I mean, I think they could have. All right, text lines, 833-687-4448. Y'all text it or call it. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one right here, y'all, I'm talking about Alabama. I mean, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, by the way, change in the footprint, if you will, for Rightside Radio. Now, Rightside Media is the parent company. Rightside Radio is just one of our productions. But Rightside Radio is changing its radio footprint. So just so you know, if you are one of our 101.1 ruffians out of the Birmingham market, then we are coming off of that station next week as of January 1st. So we've been telling y'all for a couple of weeks now, be ready. And if you haven't already done it, here's the thing, man. Do not think for a second that as we work on shifting our radio platforms around, that means you can't get us, because you can get us every day. My wife listens to it live on the internet every day. That's how she does it. She just brings it up on her phone. You can go to YouTube, you can go to Rumble, you can go to Twitch, you can go to our website, rightsidemedia.org, or you can go to two different places on X or Twitter. At Phil Williams, that's my account, or at rightside_media, that's the company account. We stream the show live, audio and video, every day. So we would love for you guys not to feel like you can't get us if you were 101.1 listeners. We had a contract renegotiation phase and decided at the end of the renegotiations that it was better for us to part ways. So we are coming off of Crawford Media's 101.1, but we announced last week that we are effectively in 2 weeks going to be live in Chattanooga. So we're going to be on WGOW out of Chattanooga coming up in 2 weeks, with 3 weeks, and looking forward to that and adding Tennessee to our repertoire in a more firm fashion. Hey, listen, there's plenty to talk about with regard to all of that, but I got somebody on the line right now, so let me honor her time. Gina from Talladega, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Phil.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. My comment, Phil, deals with the verbiage we use concerning senators and congressional people.
Okay.
And we will say things like, that is her seat, or that is his seat, and we'll call them by name. That's no one's seat but the people's seat. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
They serve at our will and at our pleasure. And influencers, even like yourself, we need to change our verbiage about how we speak of these people's seat. And I'd like your opinion. I know that I think that Congress should be elected for 4 years, and Senate seats should be elected for 4 years instead of 2 and 6. And I'd like just to hear your opinion on that.
Well, I don't know that I'm not really aggrieved by the 2 and the 6, and those are mandated by I think that's constitutional, but I could be mistaken. But that being said, but the reality is I am a firm believer in term limits, and I'm a big fan of what I like to call the 3 and out rule. Go up there for 3 terms at most and leave. I don't know that we're going to wind up seeing a change to the 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, time limits of various offices, whether they be executive or legislative. But I do think that term limits are something we should have a real serious conversation about.
I agree 100%. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You had a comment a minute ago. What was that? You said something about on YouTube. Somebody said something.
Oh yeah, we have Jeff Prentice commented on the YouTube saying that he's glad that we're live today, so that it makes the day so much better. So appreciate the comment, Jeff.
Well, we're proud to be with you, Jeff, and proud you're with us. Speaking of YouTube, by the way, y'all took us over the hump last a week ago.
Yep.
And so
a week ago today.
Yeah, that's right. It was.
Yeah.
What day is this?
I don't know.
Well, I don't even know what day this is. We had, let's see, I think today is, this is This is the other Monday.
Yeah, this little time period with Christmas and New Year's is always a blur.
Yes, Christmas and New Year's was the other weekend of the week.
Yeah.
And today, do we play the camel? I don't know what to do.
No, it's not. It's not even Wednesday. We can't play the camel.
Well, God, I'm so confused. Normally we would have Butters and Lee today, but Christmas stuff for family gets in the way. What do you do? So I don't know about your house, but I mean, I'm going to take a complete rabbit trail here. Like our Christmas is really getting going. So Charlene and I, we're empty nesters now. Kids are grown. We got grandkids. It's wonderful. I mean, listen, grandkids are everything they say they are. They just are. They're just perfect. And by the way, I am of the mind that having grandkids is like really even more than having kids. Thank you very much. But that being said, we see them today. I mean, we haven't even seen them yet because they all live out of state. And so they're driving in like right now. They should be here at the house by the time I'm coming off the air. We're going to have gatherings this weekend. We got another gathering on Sunday. I've got a gathering at my mom's house on Sunday. I've got like basically Christmas season going right now.
Yeah, that's for me too. I will be at that same gathering on Sunday.
Yes, you will.
And,
Yes, you will.
Yeah, I agree. It's the Christmas season. It's not just Christmas Day.
That's right. Stretches the goodness out.
Yeah,
I'm
and
all for it.
I appreciate all the food that I got to take back with me too.
Dude, you
from
racked
yesterday.
up. We had our Rightside gathering the other night, and you took home a healthy plate.
I got some ham, some sweet potato casserole, some mashed potatoes. I'm eating good for this time.
What time should I be over?
Whatever you want.
Ken from Remlap says, Happy Hanukkah, Ken, and same to you, I assume. But what's interesting, too, is this is the very rare year when apparently Hanukkah and Christmas fall on the same day.
Yeah, I saw that. That's interesting.
A lot of folks are looking at that as like a very important sort of, in the spiritual realm kind of thing. I don't know. Jeff P. from Arab says, heck yeah, we're glad to see you're live while everyone else is a rerun. You go, Phil. You're the man. Well, I got JP, so he's the man too. Thank you very much. If he wasn't here pushing buttons, I'd be just like talking in an empty room.
I need something to do. I can't sit around and do nothing for too long. It drives me nuts.
No, can't do that.
No.
Bruce from Springville says the liberal snowflakes act like a bunch of. I'm not gonna say that, but he says anyway. They shun anyone who doesn't believe like them. It may be a mental disorder. I caught myself. Yeah, that was the words were coming out of my mouth. Thank you. Let's not have me denigrate someone else's religion on the air. Thank you very much. David from Hoax Bluff says checking in from Hoax Bluff, Alabama. David, appreciate you, man. Listen, we got plenty to talk about today. Not the least of which is in a little while we'll get into the Festivus report. So at the risk of, now I haven't seen John from Huntsville text in yet.
He must not be listening today, so he may be safe.
If that's okay, then I'm going to mention the Seinfeld. But you may have seen the Seinfeld episode where, God, what was the name? What was the character's name that was so just obnoxious? The dad.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
It's Festivus. And he starts. He creates his own religion, and they have Festivus. And every year they have the airing of the grievances. And it's a great show. It's awful, but it's also funny. But we're going to have the Festivus report here in a little while, which is going to be a hoot. But I want to hit on another subject first that I think it needs to be more front of the mind, if you will. There are Americans right now that are still in just complete disarray in terms of their physical lives having been disrupted by Hurricane Helene. Houses destroyed, whole communities set back, jobs lost, businesses gone. And this has been, I'm gonna bet this has been 100-year, if not 1,000-year flood. But when Hurricane Helene swept through, nobody anticipated anything like what we saw. And if you go back and just Google some of the images, you would watch whole houses being washed downriver. You'd watch people looking out their window going, like saying things like, honey, get out. And then they have to get out of the house because the house is just suddenly going underwater as they watched it. I mean, it's come rushing down out of the hillsides. Well, what's so maddening, though, is that there's been now, FEMA may take issue with this, but from an outsider looking in, FEMA's response just appears to be tepid. Now, down in Florida, They have done an amazing job. Now, Florida, by the way, is granted it's hurricane central, right? Hurricanes in South Alabama and Florida and Texas coast and Louisiana, they see that kind of thing on a regular basis. Nobody saw coming what happened in North Carolina, East Tennessee, even portions of South Carolina. But the devastation has been writ large. And yet FEMA is still trying to figure out what to do. And what galls me is that FEMA doesn't seem to have a hurry-up bone in their body. Now, if somebody out there has a different experience, you can tell me. I can still remember, looking in the aftermath of what happened with Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans back in, what, was that 2004 or five? Yeah. And we had displaced people all over, and there are whole wards of New Orleans that are still, for the most part, not built on. But something about the way North Carolina is being handled just seems like another example of the Biden administration not having it together. And I'm not trying to make this fully political, but I almost can't help it because it seems to be everything the Biden administration touches has just been an epic failure. And FEMA has been no different. Even to the point that there was, at one point, keep in mind, by the way, who's in charge of FEMA. Technically, it's Alejandro Mayorkas. That's right, Department of Homeland Security. So Alejandro Mayorkas made the comment that, we may not have enough money. Well, you've been giving a lot of money to illegal aliens. How is that a thing? So we've got FEMA funds supporting illegal immigrants while we got Americans that are still living in tents. In tents, no less. Winter in the mountains of North Carolina is not fun in a tent, especially if you're a family, especially if you've had everything you owned washed away, especially when you're being told that the government will help because the government has this whole department called FEMA that's designed to actually provide help. And yet what we are seeing is a pretty amazing response from the private sector. Charitable responses. People just getting together and just deciding to do stuff have been epic. And the stories have come out that have been maddening on the one hand and yet just encouraging on the other. Maddening as government bureaucracy tries to tell people, well, you're not allowed to rebuild here because you're technically in a floodplain. My house was here last week. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to build here anymore because your house is in a floodplain. That's a law that was put in place for down in Florida. The mountains of North Carolina, that's not the same thing. Well, you appear to be in a floodplain, so I'm not sure we'll be able to give you money for rebuilding. You're a bureaucrat. My house was here. My farm is here. My family has lived here for generations. And so they're being left to their own devices. Well, we're going to talk about some things that have been happening that are maddening, and yet some, though, that have been just unbelievably cool. Like, did you hear what NASCAR just did? NASCAR and Lowe's, they just teamed up, just decided to do stuff, and it's been amazing. We'll take a break right now. We'll come right back. We're in number 1 of the Triple Dipper. I'm just calling it relief, just sweet relief. Let's bring some relief to these folks. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I'm saying, pulling pins on truth grenades. A couple of text messages. Here are a few of them, actually. Let's see. Chris from Huntsville sends me a meme. Pray tell, what is this? The world needs a stable influence as it shows Jesus laying in a stable. I like it. Thank you, Chris. Victor from Huntsville says, Phil, repeal the 17th Amendment, ratified by 3/4 of the states in 1913, changed the way we elected senators because of democracy. Prior to this, okay. All right, thank you for the history lesson. Victor, repealing the 17th Amendment would require an entire process that we're not likely to see happen anytime soon. And so I really do believe that what you're looking at here is you're better off finding the opportunity for term limits than you are with amending the Constitution. What you described there, Victor, is a massively, it's a huge undertaking to get that 17th Amendment passed. Can you imagine what it would take to get it repealed? And so I don't know that it's worthy of, listen, I don't feel like right now there's a need to say, well, let's change the way we elect them. I think we just change how long they can stay there.
Or if not term limits, age limits, or make them take cognitive tests or something.
Yeah, the only problem with that you got is then you get into issues of it's almost as if you're describing somebody as, because they're a certain age, they have to go through a test, and good luck with that, because it's like age discrimination all of a sudden. I mean, you've got people that are 90 years old that are sharp as a tack.
That's true.
Yeah, you and I've got one in our family.
Yeah.
Who could probably wear us both out with the books she's read and everything else most recently.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you got people that are 20 years younger than that can't tie their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how we go about saying that. And a part of it, though, you know what? A part of it goes back to the constituents again. Do you know who's in office, and do you know much about them? And then why do you keep electing them? I mean, Kay Granger was there for 35 years or something. And there's no reason why in her 80s she was still there. There's really not. And I have to say, what does it say about someone that's all they want to do is not live in their home state and not see their family on a regular basis? It's not like they're a part-time legislature. This is a full-time gig. This is a very time-consuming thing. And yet they want to do that into their 80s? There's no other reason to do that except that they don't know what to do with themselves outside of it. And I could go all day about that, but I really go back to the thing. Constituents need to pay more attention to who they're casting their ballots for. And then B, how about a little statesmanship? How about some people who are in office recognize that my time here may be done and the next generation needs an opportunity? But, that requires something of both sides.
Well, I mean, we see it in our own state with Kay Ivey. I mean, not saying that Kay Ivey's an awful governor, but just simply based off her health and age. I think people in Alabama, they didn't have a reason to not vote for her. I guess that, I think people vote for people because they don't know. They don't have a reason, they're happy with how things are, so why not just put them back in? I think they just kind of get caught in the lull of, why wouldn't I vote for him? So I think that's a lot of it.
She's the name I know.
Yeah, exactly.
We did have a good primary crowd. I mean, there was not a dearth. By the way, I look back and I point out, and I did back then too, the fact that she was considered a, quote, popular governor,
yeah,
and yet she was primaried as hard as she was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she won handily. In the end, she did. And then once she passed the primary, it was all over at that point. There's no Democrat was going to catch her. All she had to do was coast.
Yeah.
But she didn't do a single debate. She rarely ever did staged, like on stage kind of like speeches and rallies. She did one commercial where she said, "No step too high for a high stepper," and that's her. What is that? A platform? What is that? I was working out this morning and I was doing these things I call high steppers, and I couldn't help but think about that stupid ad. But it was if people were not unhappy with their lives, then they were not going to be unhappy with her.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means that people aren't paying attention to policy. But if people will pay attention, they'll recognize you're not the super popular governor if you're getting primaried that hard by real candidates with real money who are coming in hard. Is my time up?
Yep.
I didn't get on topic.
No.
All right, listen, we got more texts and I got stuff. We're going to talk about relief in North Carolina, especially, and East Tennessee. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 2 on a Thursday. I had to remind myself it was Thursday. I don't know what day this is. It's like, I am so out of check right now. I just like, I slept later than usual yesterday. Whacked me completely out.
Is that what did it?
Maybe. I don't know. All I know is we took 2 days off in the middle of the week, and now I feel like it's Monday. It's really Thursday. What in God's name?
And 2 more days, and we'll be back to the weekend.
I know. It's like, wow. But apparently a lot of the world's not working at all, and here we are.
Yep, we're here.
Right Side Media, we are here for you, man. A couple of texts. Kano from Layton, Alabama, sent me a text about spiritual warfare. And yeah, Kano, he talked about his dad, who was a college professor, also a preacher, who had passed away, and felt like there was a real serious case for spiritual warfare, and that each country was dealing with its own version of spiritual. I don't disagree with that, man. I think there's a lot to be said for strongholds, but at the same time, greater is He that is in us than he that's in the world, right? But Kano, thanks for the text. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, Alejandro Mayorkas still being the head of Homeland Security, maybe you're in the flood-affected areas, you can just renounce your citizenship and get paid from FEMA, and for being an illegal alien, pays better than being a regular American anyway. No doubt. No doubt. By the way, he also says, you're not the only one working today. I got called back for 1 day, so I'm in Alabama. Well, Jeff, the world is safer if you are making the wheels of commerce go. So, yeah, there's that. Listen, we're going to talk about this stuff going on with North Carolina, Indiana. I'm calling this section relief. But I tell you what's not relieving is the fact that there are so many Americans right now who are still where they are. Keep in mind, this storm happened back in October. You've got people that are devastated and waiting on relief, and it's slow coming, man. I mean, like slow coming. And by the way, if you wouldn't mind telling the caller, I got to get going on some information here. He may have to call back unless he's on topic. If he's off topic, okay. He's on topic?
Yeah, he said he wants to comment on the FEMA stuff. So,
well, I tell you what, then let me say a couple things, and I'll grab that phone real quick. So I've got a piece here. I had to go local news to get some of this, because what's also maddening is how much of this gets lost in the major news cycles. Now, I know we had the election. Yes, I get it. I know that the Biden administration is just screwing other things up too. Those are taking news. I get it. Doge is a big deal. I get it. All this stuff is happening. But you know what? Story here off of WUNC, which is local channel out of North Carolina. It says 3 months after Helene struck western North Carolina, thousands of people are still out of their homes. Let that sink in. Thousands of people are still out of their homes. It says FEMA is still paying hotel bills for more than 5,000 people displaced by the storm, providing temporary rental assistance for more than 500, and has placed dozens in mobile housing so far. Okay, so the numbers began to kind of sink in. I thought, wait a minute. They got 5,000 they're paying for hotels for. I'm glad, but by the way, that benefit is due to run out in 2 weeks. 5,000 people in hotels. 500 more they provided some other kind of rental assistance to. I don't know what that means. Maybe a rental house or a Verbo or something. And then they say they placed dozens in mobile homes. Dozens. Why? I remember Katrina. There were hundreds, maybe thousands of FEMA trailers. Where'd they go? What have we done with them? Why are we not doing that again? They've placed dozens in mobile housing. And then it follows the next line of the article. Private charities have also put hundreds in trailers and other temporary housing. Wait a minute. FEMA's got dozens of trailers. Private charities have put up hundreds. You're telling me the weight of the U.S. government cannot keep up with the private sector's relief. Now, not that listen, I am absolutely in favor of churches and charitable groups and groups like Samaritan's Purse and others doing what they're doing. I think it is awesome. I mean, my own church, Church of the Highlands, has got teams that are still up there, as far as I know, that are working. Now, it goes on to talk about some of the things that are happening, like this is a thing. So right now, FEMA has placed 25 people in a little inn called the Shady Lawn Inn in a place called Newland, North Carolina. It's a little bitty country hotel. And the co-owner there has turned the whole lobby into like a living room with cushy chairs and couches. It's like a family environment, and she's tried to make it a home for them. So you got FEMA is paying, but the fact is there's a church that brings lunch 3 times a week to this group in the hotel. The hotel owner cooks dinner every night with food that's paid for by outside donations. This is amazing. She says we're trying to keep people's spirits up, and it's a pretty diverse group here at the inn. And in some ways, we've stitched them all together into one big storm-battered family. Well, that's awesome. Says 3 of them living at the hotel had their houses totally destroyed. Others are waiting on repairs. Most aren't sure when they'll go home. They're talking about people living there who are retirees, some with children, some with teenagers. And life has to go on, but they're living out of a hotel. Everything with FEMA is pending, says one of the group's members. We're not getting any direction, any answers. They're not saying, okay, these are your options. They're just saying, we don't know, we can't tell you. We're living in limbo. Now, the free stays, by the way, were due to end on December 4th, but now they're extended to January 11th. So that's coming up fast, y'all. And the nature of the damage, the article points out, like the mountain terrain and all of it has created just, it's tough to get, I get it, it's tough to get trailers in, except that a private group, and I'll tell you about it more in just a minute, has just brought in 100 tiny homes. 100, and they're all up to code. Let me grab the phone real quick since it's on topic real quick. Robert from Athens is on line 1. Hey, Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Phil. You doing all right?
I'm good. What you got?
Oh, yeah, that FEMA. I tell you, the people, they know they have to have assistance from FEMA. And, they're just bilking the coffers every time they fill it up, I guess. But if the people were helping them like they are, everybody else from around the country, states, nearby states and all that, they're helping. That's just about the only way that I see that anything's going to get done, because FEMA is, I think FEMA needs to be reworked a little bit. I think they need to get their act together, especially when it comes to money.
I agree.
And who they spend it on.
Yeah, when you find out they're spending on illegal immigrants, that's pretty maddening.
You can't, I got a sawmill here at home. I couldn't take that sawmill to Georgia or up there in Tennessee and help build a house, because a lot of their laws up there in North Carolina and all that, well, you have to have, graded lumber, to build a house. And that's just silly, some of the laws, you were talking about the floodplains and all that. It's just, there's too much bureaucracy, like you said a while ago, in FEMA. And it doesn't need to be, somebody needs to be in there that's elected so they can get kicked out when the money goes away to some other thing that doesn't need it.
I completely agree. And we're watching right now. The private sector is still doing some amazing things in there, the charitable groups and churches and others. But FEMA is supposed to be the lead. In fact, by law, FEMA's the lead. FEMA comes in and they are the lead agency. Once they establish the footprint on the ground, they take over from anybody who's there, and you're supposed to coordinate through them. And yet what we're finding out a lot of times is, like you said, they put red tape in the way. They're bound by bureaucratic, all kinds of nonsense. And then you got the budgeting, and you don't want fraud. I mean, you don't want somebody applying for aid that doesn't need it. But it seems like the process of getting approval has got some people wondering why things are. But, at the very least, we knew that Kamala Harris was going to promise them all $750. That was important. I guess that would buy, a few dinners. But, hey, Robert, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you. I got a sound clip. Do I have time for it? No, I take it back. I'm going to wait on the sound clip after the next break. I will say this. FEMA has apologized most recently. Again, WBTV, which is, again, a local channel out of Charlotte, North Carolina, says FEMA apologizes. This is right at 2.5 weeks ago. FEMA apologizes after failing to deliver promised trailers to Helene survivors in North Carolina. Okay, so they delivered some, I will say that. But they had told WBTV, the same channel I'm reading from now, they had told WBTV back that they would have 103 travel trailers delivered by Thanksgiving. And by December, they still had only delivered 46. Why'd you promise 103 if you're going to deliver less than half of that? More than 500 families have been approved for one of those travel trailers. And yet FEMA says, well, we're sorry, we had a bit of a miscommunication within the agency, and we'll be very cautious about disseminating information, and we won't be making any commitments on times in the near future because we don't want to, basically what they're saying is they don't want to be bound to a timeline. They're saying, hey, listen, we won't make commitments anymore. Well, you're supposed to. Your job is commitment. Your job is to make commitments to people who are looking for someone to give them commitments. If you come in and you're all gray, then people who need the black and white are not going to be happy, and they're not going to be satisfied, and they're not going to be cared for. So what you've got right now is an agency that is fearful of doing its job, is struggling to do it well, is been spending money on the illegals because that's the thing that they were told they had to do by their boss, Alejandro Mayorkas and Joe Biden. And you look at it and go, my gosh, y'all, you've got 5,000 displaced Americans, and you just sent more money to Ukraine. You got 5,000 Americans who are not in their homes, who had them ripped away by no fault of their own. They didn't build in the wrong place. They weren't not built to code. They were not in some kind of an awkward situation where they shouldn't have ever been there. Nothing like that. A massive 1,000-year storm came through, swept away whole communities. And now you can't get your act together well enough to get them trailers? Trailers, for God's sake. It's just a trailer. Go buy them. You just sent billions more to Ukraine without a plan, but you can't go down to the local RV and listen, I guarantee you could. In fact, I am pretty sure there are RV parks and RV manufacturers and distributors who would be loving the idea of a government contract. Sure, you want to buy out our inventory? We're for that. And next thing you know, you're supplying trailers, but you can't do that. Why? I don't know. I guess you have to go through a government bid process, and you got to make sure you have enough DEI mixed into your contract. And then they got to be built to a certain standard, which is not anything that anybody needs, but it's, hey, and then you're going to have them shipped in, and you're going to have that bid out to somebody. And then you're going to have to, here's the deal. If you look down in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, he had bridges rebuilt within a week. He had power back on within days. It's maddening. All right, I just ran long. I'm rambling, but when we come back from this break, I'm gonna play you one that relates to Tennessee, which I guess is good because we're about to be on the air in Chattanooga. So all you East Tennessee folks, I got a sound clip coming for you. You're gonna want to hear. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just like saving the world one soundbite at a time. That's what I like to say. Badger from Athens says he's working today as well. Badger, we're glad that the wheels of commerce are being cared for by people like you. Thank you very much. Kimball from Harvest checked in. He says, Phil, that's right, Phil. He says the weight of the U.S. government can't keep up with the private sector. Most anything the government does, the private sector can do better if left alone. By the time FEMA gets its boots on and shows up, private individuals and organizations are well on their way to solving the problems and addressing any and all concerns, including the spiritual needs that arise from these natural disasters. Kimball, Harvest. You are correct, sir. Let me tell you one of the things that's happening. I mentioned the whole floodplain thing. People are finding out right now that they're being told they can't rebuild their houses in the same place they were. I got a story here. How much time do we have? I ran long last time. Do I have enough time for this?
We got about 3 minutes.
Whew, it's going to be close. I got a piece here from local news out of East Tennessee. Let's go ahead and listen to a report that tells you some things that'll curl your hair. Go ahead.
Yeah, county officials learning from FEMA and TEMA, people are building or rebuilding what they call floodplains or floodways, areas essentially where that flooding can happen. Now, this concern from emergency officials raising the alarm for Cott County, trying to figure out if they want to keep the current plan. It's a situation almost putting Cott County between a rock and a hard place.
It's turned into more of a complicated event than what I think we imagined we would ever be facing.
People were trying to rebuild in certain areas before getting approval from FEMA. Cott County's property assessor says that now has leaders questioning if the county should keep the National Flood Insurance Plan. It's had it since 1988.
It kind of raised some concerns about what the ramifications of being in the program might be versus what they might be if we're not in the program.
County leaders have to determine if they keep the insurance, causing a stop in some homes being rebuilt, or get rid of the program.
I believe there's also some setbacks for the county as far as federal funding goes if we pull out of the program.
On top of that, Reed also says people would have to get flood insurance through lenders directly, likely costing people more money. Reed's worried about the people personally hit months after this storm.
Stop it there. So what you just heard is a classic example of bureaucracy. It's to the point now that the people in this community area they're talking about is just outside of Pigeon Forge area, I believe you said, and they're like they don't even want to be part of the National Flood Insurance Program anymore because it comes with so many stringers, like houses that have existed where they were for the longest time were hit by a 1,000-year flood, and FEMA's now saying, well, you're not going to be able to rebuild there anymore. We're not going to be able to give you funds for a rebuild. It's maddening. And this people want to go back to where their houses were. They want to know that what they had is what they're allowed to have again. Why would you not? And so it's so much so that local government leaders are like, you know what? Screw this. Why do we want to be involved in this program if all you're going to do is come in and say, well, we can't insure it if you build it? It's not, why is it? What do you mean you can't insure it? It was there before. That's what insurance is for. Flood insurance, listen, I know flood insurance is a big deal. Charlene and I are lucky. We built our house near the Coosa River, but we were able to make sure that it was not in the floodplain because otherwise it would have been costly. And I get it. But you know what? If they pay the premiums, that's what you're for. And if you have a national flood insurance program mandated by law, thank you very much, and the participating communities don't want to participate anymore, what does that tell you? You've created a giant of bureaucracy that no one wants to be a part of because all you do is make people's lives miserable. Your job is to insure and let them get back to living. That's what it's for. I got more on this. I'm on a rant. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one right here. I'm talking about Alabama, y'all, Alabama. I mean, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. That's about to change a little bit, by the way. Not that we're not going to cover some major ground. Just we're going to cover new and different ground as well. So listen, if you have not heard the announcement, two things. One is we announced last week that, in fact, I just sent the contract in. We are now going to be broadcasting live out of Chattanooga as well. So Chattanooga, Tennessee, we look forward to joining you. And that Chattanooga broadcast actually goes not just through Chattanooga, Tennessee, East Tennessee area, but also well into northwest Georgia and parts of northeast Alabama. So we're stoked about that. Looking forward to joining up with Cumulus Broadcasting's WGOW out of Chattanooga. Live as usual. Now, here's the other piece of this, though. Those of y'all that are 101.1 out of Birmingham ruffians, all you Rightside ruffians on 101.1, that is changing next week. So we went through contract renegotiation with Crawford Broadcasting, and after the negotiations were done, we decided our best situation was to go ahead and say thank you anyway. So we have decided to leave 101.1 effective January 1st. So next week, you're going to hear the last few days of Rightside Radio on 101.1, but you can still get us live every day, no matter where you are. No matter where you are in the whole wide world, go to the World Wide Web, and you can click on YouTube, our website, rightsidemedia.org, two different places on X or Twitter, at Phil Williams or Rightside Media. You can also go to Twitch, you can go to Rumble. Listen, we broadcast the live audio and video every single day. That's what Charlene does. My wife, she listens to the show on her phone every day. So if you have not done this, 101.1 people, here's what I'm asking you to do right now. Go over and check it out. Don't get caught off guard next week when you turn on your radio and go, oh, wait, what's that show I don't recognize? Well, do it now so you're ready for it next week. And here's one of the things we would really like to ask you guys to do. We are growing as a company. Rightside Media is the name of the broad company. We do podcasting, radio, all of it. But Rightside Media is growing, and part of how we grow is you guys clicking follow or subscribe or like, depending upon what platform you're on. Like YouTube, if you'll go to YouTube, go to Rightside Media, find us. We're broadcasting right now. If you haven't already hit subscribe, please hit subscribe. Last week, y'all pushed us over 1,000 subscribers, which gave us the chance to start doing more on YouTube right away. But every time we grow, we get more opportunities. So just, if you would, hit subscribe. All right, that's enough of that. Let me move on to the information I've got at hand. So I'm finishing up this section on relief. I'll finish it this segment, I think. I got a piece here from WLOS out of Asheville, North Carolina. And I love this. So apparently Lowe's and NASCAR and a whole bunch of home builders got together. They decided, well, by golly, we're going to get her done. And they did, in the tradition of like blue collar, get her done, salt of the earth America. They just delivered roughly 100 temporary tiny homes. And they're nice. I mean, and every one of them has been individually built. So on Friday, December 20th, NASCAR made its final delivery of 17 tiny homes to Charlotte. They had NASCAR haulers bring them in a parade. I mean, it was really something else to see the video of it. It's a $12 million commitment from NASCAR and Lowe's. And a bunch of home builders got busy. They said, you know what? We were thinking about this, and we thought we should be able to do something. We can swing hammers. We know how to build stuff, but it's pretty costly. And so they solicited Lowe's, and then Lowe's got NASCAR. You know, Lowe's sponsors a NASCAR team, and they got busy, and they said, let's get this done. And so they got a huge warehouse, and they began just building these things and then hauling them to Carolina. I mean, they've been going. I've got one article here. Which one? I got two articles about this. Yeah, one of them said, We were worried about having enough people, and we put out a sign-up sheet, and a week later we had 400 volunteers. That's the Greater Home Builders Association of Charlotte, North Carolina. And one guy said, I basically haven't worked my real job in about 3 weeks. I've been sleeping about 4 hours a night just to make it happen. That, my friends, is how it goes. That, my friends, is America. That is just awesome. And one section of the article says, nobody said no. It said as many as 400 skilled laborers donated time, another 50 homes built by Incredible Tiny Homes, which is another company that does tiny homes for a living, with funding from Lowe's, brings the total to 67 to be deployed before Christmas, with help from a group called Beloved Asheville and NASCAR, who jumped at the opportunity to get the completed homes across the finish line. That's just cool. And by the way, update on that. That was a story from December 19th. By December 26th, they had reached 100. So FEMA could not get it done. Remember that? FEMA was going to get 100 trailers there by Thanksgiving. And then by December, first week of December, they had 46. This group of volunteers said, we'll do that. And by the way, that's one community out of Charlotte. One community found 400 volunteers, a $12 million series of donations from Lowe's and from NASCAR, and they got it done. And this article is just amazing to read. The people talk about getting these tiny homes. They're bringing them right to them. They're driving them up there and putting them on their property so they can live at their home and watch their home be repaired while they live on the site. Now, a couple more things here, and I'll tell you, this just blessed me. Story, Dateline today, Fox News. 2 Hurricane Helene victims, a family of 4 and a Vietnam veteran, were both gifted campers on Christmas Day. So this is actually very cool. There's an organization that's called Emergency RV. That's their name. It's a 501c3, a nonprofit called Emergency RV. Their mission in life is to provide housing to displaced survivors of natural disasters. They have given over 77 campers to people around the Hurricane Helene area in Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, all of it. Since September, they've given away 77 campers. Well, most recently, right before Christmas, there was one family, the Penleys, their name, from Boone, North Carolina. They lost everything in the storm. And they were just discharged from the hospital because they just had their second child. And they were about to move into a homeless shelter because they don't have anything. And Emergency RV heard about it. They said, nope, that's not going to happen. So they gave them this wonderful, it's two parents and, two adults and 2 children. One is a toddler and one's the newborn. And now they have a 1-bedroom camper that has a second sleeping area on the other side. It's got a nice sized bathroom, a large kitchen, seating table, a couch, and they brought it right to them. Another guy, 70-year-old Marine Corps veteran, Vietnam vet, he lived in a camper on his land, and Helene tore the roof off of his camper. And Emergency RV bought him a brand new camper. And his daughter was there and said, you helped turn my dad's life around. And that's America right there. Hey, the last one I got on this, though. Got this off townhall.com, Dateline yesterday. I did not know that President Trump had started his own personal GoFundMe account for Hurricane Helene. Did you know that?
I didn't know that either.
I
no.
didn't either. I mean, but go figure. Why not? Right. I mean, right when he's in the throes of finishing up his election and dealing with all of his legals and all the things, he started the GoFundMe to get people to begin contributing to the relief effort. And it says in here, when it became evident in September that the federal government was failing to adequately respond, President-elect Donald Trump launched a GoFundMe page for hurricane victims. He announced over $8 million in donations for victims of Hurricane Helene raised through that dedicated GoFundMe. They were able to provide relief to nearly 50,000 people across all 50 states. And the funds were distributed through charities like Samaritan's Purse, Water Mission, Mountain to Sea, the Clinch Foundation, Sweetwater Mission, and several others. So basically what he did was he raised money, gave it to charities, and put them to work. And they just went out there and got busy. It's also, by the way, it was the largest GoFundMe total of any account that GoFundMe had in the entire year of 2024. So here's the bottom line, folks. I'm telling you, I named this one Relief. But some of these folks don't feel like they have any relief yet. Some of these folks are like, where's my government with all the promises? And then they see stuff on the news like billions going to Ukraine. And then they see things on the news like billions being spent on illegal immigrants. And they wonder, when am I going to get my house back? And I'm an American citizen, and I'm a taxpayer. When am I getting my house back? Why can't you just tell me something? But I will tell you that I take a great sense of relief, to use the word in the other direction. I take a great sense of relief in knowing that there are churches and people and organizations who are stepping in and in many ways working to fill that gap and doing it in a way that goes way beyond anything that you could ever expect to see from the federal government. If you wait on the government, you will always be dissatisfied. Nothing replaces good people getting busy. I got time for one call before I go to the break, and I see it's on the line one. Steve from Huntsville. Hey, man, how are you?
How you doing, Colonel? Good to talk to you.
You too, man. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to let you know there was a guy at work that had a fairly new travel trailer, still had a payoff on it, and he put all the paperwork out there, and he owed $13,000 on it, and he did a GoFundMe, and it took less than 2 weeks, and he had the payoff amount, and they drove it to North Carolina and dropped it off with the guys up there.
How about that?
Just to try and help at least one family, because a lot of people around here know you can lose anything, everything at one time, especially in Tornado Alley South.
Yeah.
And I thought that he's a really good person for that. I don't want to say his name, but I don't have his permission. But that man's a Christmas miracle. He did that about a month ago.
Well, that is awesome. You know, and I love hearing those anecdotal stories of people just deciding they're going to do something, anything. And, Steve, thanks for sharing that with us, by the way. And by the way, when you talk to him at work, tell him how much I appreciate it. And if he wants to come on the show or have his name known, you let me know, all right?
No problem. Merry Christmas, sir.
Yeah, sir. You too. And Happy New Year. That is very cool. We had those guys in studio. How long has it been now? A month or so ago?
Yeah, that was like right when, like, a week or so after
it was
it
all
happened.
fresh.
Yeah. It's nuts how much more stuff average citizens can do than the federal government.
And what's crazy is they don't go out there looking for the notoriety.
No,
They're not issuing press releases, and like that guy, he's talking about that the world's never going to know for the most part that guy got his trailer paid off so he could give it away.
Yeah.
I mean, he had worked to pay off that trailer, no telling what he had hoped to do with it, and then realized somebody else might need a living space. It was recreational space for him, and now it's living space for somebody else.
Yeah. But what's really annoying too about FEMA promising stuff, like don't make promises you can't back up, especially to these people in this time. That just adds to the pain that they're already going through.
Yeah.
It's just the incompetence is very frustrating.
But you also take a look at what we have, and what I would say is don't take it for granted.
Yes.
Like Charlene and I were able to build, after living in the same house for 24 years of our 38-year marriage, we finally built a house that we've called our retirement house, and we love it. But I can't tell you how many times we sat on the back deck, looked at the water, and I'll say, or she'll say, one of us will say out loud, "We do not take this for granted." And you can't. You can't, because you watch people having things snatched away overnight, and you realize how much we have. All right, that's enough for that. That's relief. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back. It is time for the annual airing of the grievances. The Festivus Report is next. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades. Okay, so we're going to go to another segment here in a moment. Dipper number 2. I mean, it's almost 2 hours into the show, and we've gotten through one Dipper, but it was a big one.
It was a good one.
It was a good one.
The show flew by.
It did. But listen, big fun happening right now because Birdman is sitting in studio. Birdman just came in. Give me some applause for Birdman, host of the Right Side podcast, Right Click. Birdman just showed up. For those who don't know, Birdman is also married to my daughter, who is standing outside saying, "Don't let me be seen on the air. I'm not wearing makeup right now." How you doing, Birdman?
I'm good. How y'all doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry
Obviously.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy almost New Year.
Yeah. Almost there. We've almost made it.
2025 cannot get here soon enough.
Yeah, it's been a good year though.
Yeah.
It's been a very good year.
It's been an amazing year.
Yeah.
You guys are in town for a few days.
Yeah, we sure are. It's good to be here.
Right Click podcast still coming out on Friday?
Yeah. So I did my last one for the holidays.
You see that?
Yeah, I did my last one for the holidays. I wanted to end it on the Game Awards, like the Game of the Year kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And everything just fell into place. So,
did you have your own woke Game of the Year?
You know, I actually two categories are in the official Game of the Year. That is kind of that thing. And when I did it, I omitted both of those happily. I had to. I'm not doing any of that.
Yes, for those who don't know, so I said a minute ago, Rightside Media is the parent company. Rightside Radio is only one of our productions. We have 4 separate podcasts that come out every week, one of which is Birdman, who used to be like a professional gamer, who's got the gaming, the high tech, all that stuff, and by the way, conservative stuff brewed into his.
Yep.
And that's been going now. How many episodes have you done now?
Oh man, I don't even know that I've kept track. I don't number them. I just kind of.
I think you're 20 plus.
I think I'm 20 plus for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen additions and changes to the
Yep.
studio and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's evolved. So yeah,
It really has. And the other podcasts are my own is Right Philosophy. It comes out every Wednesday. We just had another episode come out this week. I hope you'll check it out. It was Christmas oriented, but the message holds no matter what. And then when's the next version or next edition of Liberty Minute with former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson?
Liberty Minute should be out next week.
That's what I thought.
So, yeah.
Next week.
And we got another Controversial Mom on Sunday as well.
Controversial Mom with Emily Jones. By the way, Emily Jones and Lee from Huntsville and one of their friends, Dee, who is a former D1 athlete, are going to be in studio tomorrow. So that's going to be good times. Yeah.
that's awesome.
So yeah, you guys just going to chill for a couple of days?
Yeah, it's nice to have some time off. I got a big start of the year coming, so we're gonna take what time that we can.
What is that like?
I'm soaking it up while I got the chance. Ask me after.
I know. I came to work at the law firm today, and I'm like emailing people and getting no response, and I'm thinking, I'm the only one working.
Yeah.
And apparently we're the only people actually live today.
Yeah, like
radio.
everybody else. Like so, Dale Jackson didn't do a live show.
It's no work Dale Simber. So
no work Dale Simber.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
It means he gets to be a bum for the rest of December. So
Dale Jackson, if you're listening, that is so cliche, man. So cliche.
It's right up his alley.
Blasé cliche. All right. Well, listen, I will see you guys later on at the house. Then love y'all. And Birdman, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're taking a break right now. When we come right back, I got something new for you. It's literally, so you may recall an episode of Seinfeld in which George Costanza's dad, Frank Costanza, I believe, decided it was time to create a brand new festival, and he calls it Festivus. It's time to have a little Festivus for the rest of us, to include the annual airing of the grievances. I got sound clips, and then I got the Festivus report, the one that just came out from Senator Rand Paul that's going to tell you all the things that are going to tick you off when you hear what the government's been spending money on. So coming up next, the Festivus report. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside Studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on what is allegedly a Thursday that feels like a Monday, and all of us are still like sleep hungover because we got more sleep than usual.
Still recovering from a food coma.
A food coma?
I had to, it's very rare that I turn down dessert. I was so stuffed, I said, I can't do it. And I laid on the couch and just...
Pray tell, what dessert did you turn down?
The pumpkin pie.
Oh, my gosh.
Listen, I have to be really, really full to turn down pumpkin pie. I was stuffed, so
That's, I fay awful for you.
I know. It's
break out in the meat sweats?
Yeah, just about.
just wow. Hey, listen, I'm gonna jump into number 2 of the Triple Dipper here momentarily. But before I do that, I gotta point something out. In case y'all did not know this, just to go ahead and make things a little more maddening. So President Biden only has 3 weeks left on the job? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Just 3. But he's taking a vacation. Just so you know. Joe Biden, the putative president of the United States, for 3 more weeks, has left for St. Croix with his family. He's going to spend his time in the islands, soaking up time on the beach, because, he's not going to have any retirement time at all when he leaves office. Just saying.
He's had nothing but retirement time while in office.
That's exactly right. God. That is just, God, that's a layer of jackassery that I can't even begin to describe. Hey, all right, so some of y'all may remember a show called Seinfeld. And I know that our avid listener, John from Huntsville, who has not texted in today, which leads me to believe it's safe to talk about Seinfeld. He hates Seinfeld, but I'm gonna talk about it today because there's a thing that comes out every year now called the Festivus Report. It's the Festivus Report by Senator Rand Paul. And I've got a copy of it here that I'm going to go through with you in a moment. But you might wonder, pray tell, Phil, what is Festivus? Well, there was a time on Seinfeld when George Costanza's father, Frank, played by Jerry Stiller, who was a hoot, he decided he was tired of what he called the overtly consumeristic nature of Christmas. He had totally lost the meaning of the season. Jesus is the reason for the season, but he was all about the fighting your way through the crowds for the shopping and all that. And he thought, I'm going with anti-consumerism, and he declared his own holiday called Festivus. And then in the midst of Festivus, you have the Festivus pole, which is like a simple, just plain aluminum pole that stands there. It's like the anti-Christmas tree. It's just a pole, no decoration, just an aluminum pole, like the kind you use for fencing. And then on top of that, he has a portion of the celebration of Festivus in which you have the annual airing of the grievances, where you have to tell people what they've done that made you mad. It's just, listen, I got a sound clip here. JP, you got it for me? Let's just play some origins of Festivus, first of all.
Many Christmases ago, I went to buy a doll for my son. I reached for the last one they had, but so did another man. As I rained blows upon him, I realized there had to be another way.
What happened to the doll?
It was destroyed. But out of that, a new holiday was born. A Festivus for the rest of us.
Well, that must have been some kind of doll.
She was. The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so that I don't care who you are. That's funny. So the annual airing of the grievances. Enter Senator Rand Paul. So Senator Rand Paul is one of those who is somewhat of a fiscal hawk. He's always got his eye on waste. And watching to see what the government is spending and just mad about stuff. And I don't blame him. I look at this and I think, what in the world? But so Senator Rand Paul came up with his report. And we got an audio clip from him too. Audio clip number 2. If you wouldn't mind getting that ready, I'm gonna air it before I go into the details here. But Senator Rand Paul comes up with the annual Festivus report, in which he goes through the long list of complaints, if you will, the grievances about how the federal government spends. And it sounds funny, but at the same time, it's really not. You know, you look at it this year, he's come up with a whopping over $1 trillion in literal waste, like ridiculous things like ice skating drag queens and $1 million or $12 million Las Vegas pickleball complex, all of it. Well, he did an interview on Fox talking about the Festivus report and why he does it. Let's hear a part of that first, and then I'll jump into what's in it. Go ahead.
And of course, border security for ... Paraguay. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul joins us now. Senator, this is an annual list you do. You've got a lot of problems with government people, to quote Seinfeld further. How tough is it to target and find the entries on this list?
You know, I got a lot of problems with big spenders in both parties. And here's the thing. Everywhere you look, you find more of this stuff. $1 trillion. That means we found a lot of waste. But it's everywhere. It's in all the big departments, in the Department of State. It's in NIH. It's in the National Science Foundation. And people wonder, why does it exist every year? We have this Department of Doge. Are they going to be able to get rid of it? Well, the only way to get rid of it is to spend less money. So if you give the National Science Foundation $4 billion one year, and then you increase it to $8 billion, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand you're going to get more waste, not less. This has been going on since the 70s, but it has exploded. But you have to be willing to cut spending for the overall department. NIH will have more waste if you give them more money. They spent $3 million studying what kids do when they look at ads for food on Facebook. So they had a whole bunch of kids look at ads for food on Facebook, and that was $3 million worth. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars to drill holes into cats' head, spin them around rapidly, and study motion sickness.
Wow.
Sounds more like animal cruelty than it actually sounds like an experiment. But the list goes on and on.
And that's not to
stop there a second. He's not wrong. The list goes on and on. And I can't tell you how much I hope that Doge actually gets real. All right. Right now, Doge is all talk, but they've not had a chance to implement anything. But it doesn't mean they can't be looking. And this is a great place to start. There is nothing in this list that I'm going to go through with you here in a minute that needs to remain. I mean, if they cut out $1 trillion in waste, if they just got down to the point that they said, okay, pork barrel is not allowed any longer. Appropriations, all you have to do is say appropriations have to be germane to the bill at hand. In other words, you can't pork up a bill with things that are unrelated. But they don't do that. The way you solicit as long as the process says that you can pork up a bill, then people will withhold their votes until they get their pork written into a bill. And then you get stupid stuff. Then you get the airing of the grievances with the Festivus report. So keep playing the interview with let's play it another minute. How about that?
Mention, I mean, you have stolen COVID relief funds, $8 million. One guy from Florida did it to buy an island. You mentioned the cat. The list does go on and on, but you also alluded to this, Senator. Do you think your tradition ends this year? In other words, is this the year that Doge eliminates the need for you to go through and make this list, because they've done it over the course of the intervening 365 days?
Ultimately, it takes Congress. Congress has to get rid of the spending. Doge can point out the spending problems and the waste the same way I've been pointing it out. But the reason it's not eliminated is they don't have the votes to get rid of the spending. So I am very hopeful that Doge will draw attention to this the same way I've been drawing attention to it. But I'll give you an example. About a year ago, there was a chip spill, a bill to subsidize microchips, semiconductors in the United States. Well, in that bill, they doubled the size of the National Science Foundation. Now, the National Science Foundation is the one that's famous for doing a study on whether tequila or gin makes people more aggressive. So they fed fish, half of them tequila, and the other half of the fish gin, and they decided which made the fish more aggressive. That's the National Science Foundation. most of the terrible, wasteful projects, the crazy stuff and experiments that's going on is National Science Foundation. In the CHIPS bill, all the Democrats and half the Republicans voted to double the size of the National Science Foundation. So why is there more waste? Because the idiots in Congress keep giving them more money.
There you go. Stop there. He is so right. He is so right. And it's because they have a flawed budgeting process. They have a flawed budgeting process that entices people to go get a little something so they can say they brought the bacon home. And then they have agenda-driven stuff like, well, if it's DEI, we can get you some money. We can do that. You got some critical race theory, we can get you some money. You get some LGBTQ in there, we can get you some money. I mean, if you want to build a bridge to nowhere, we can get you some money. Do you have an underprivileged, underserved community? How do you define that? Well, we define that. Okay, what do you define it as? We define it as this. I got some of those. We'll get you some money. That's the way it works. It's abnormal. There is no one who would run their home like this. A private sector business would go under if you ran it like this. I mean, can you imagine if the private sector said, I just don't feel like paying to keep the lights on or the staff paid. I'm going to go buy all these things that don't relate, that I don't need, and spend the company's money on it. How long would the private sector business be there? Not long. So the bottom line for us today is that the annual Festivus report, which I'm going to read you some of the things that come out of it, and we'll just laugh over it and yet at the same time be mad about it, because this has got to stop.
Well, if how Elon ran X when he first took it over, if that's any indication on how he's going to work with the Doge, I'd expect a lot of this to go away. Because one of his quotes from he fired like 70-80% of his employees, or it was like a high number, and he said something of like, it's funny when you're trying to run an actual business instead of an indoctrination program, turns out you don't need so many people.
That's exactly right.
So maybe he comes in and says, maybe when we're not trying to push all these agendas and just trying to run a government, you don't need all this stuff.
So here's the problem. I'll believe it when I see it. Mm-hmm. And I say that because when he walked into X, he wasn't dealing with a unionized base, which the federal service workers, a lot of them are unionized. Mm-hmm. He wasn't dealing with people who are on government contracts. He wasn't dealing with things that were being preserved for a period of time by an executive order that was in place from the previous administration, which Biden has been doing. He wasn't looking at things that are embedded within the bureaucracy that are layered to the point that if you do away with this one, it does away with three others. They do that. They layer this stuff so that
so you can't get rid of it.
So you can't get rid of it, and then it becomes a self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah.
And you also have things that are a part of the previous year's budget. So they're going to want to axe things, and yet at the same time, Congress, before they got there, approved the funding for it. So now you've got by law that the funding is to be spent on this thing. So are they going to be able to repeal the funding? That's going to be a congressional act. So he's right when Senator Paul said, Congress is the one that has to do this. Doge can advise, but Congress has to do the work.
Having the majority helps.
And they've got the majority. They better use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a break right now. We come right back. We're going to jump on into some stuff that I hope Doge can get their teeth into. Like, who let the Doge out? We need some Doge biting is what we need. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, JP.
What's that?
You like pickleball?
No.
You don't?
I can't. Listen, I've never played it, but I hate that millennials are obsessed with it. Let me say that.
It is rather faddish.
Yes.
I cannot help but think that somehow or another it's going to burn out sometime soon.
You'll never find me on a pickleball court.
All right, well, that being said,
mm-hmm.
How much would you imagine it would cost to build a pickleball court?
Oh, probably too much.
Do you anticipate there being reasons why the government would build pickleball courts?
No.
I don't either. But apparently at a Las Vegas pickleball complex, the Department of the Interior decided to spend $12 million. Oh,
my gosh.
$12 million on pickleball courts at a Las Vegas pickleball complex. Just so you know, in the annual airing of the grievances, I got a lot of problems with you people.
That's a big grievance.
Yeah. Do you have that clip still where he says that at the annual airing of the grievances?
I got it. I can bring it back up.
Bring it back up. I think we're going to have to play that like several times. How about this? Let's see. Which one of my favorites? Let's see which one go. Oh my gosh. HHS. You may be curious to know that even rats get lonely. Did you know that?
I guess they would get lonely. I don't know why we would care, but
well,
I
the
guess
Department
they do.
of Health and Human Services spent $419,470 to see if lonely rats seek cocaine more than happy rats would. Why?
That's
here's
funny.
Here's the bottom line. Cocaine bad. We don't care. You don't need to find out whether happy people or sad people like cocaine more. It's cocaine bad. That's all you got to know. You don't need 419,000 taxpayer dollars. How about this? The Department of Energy wants you to move towards electric vehicles, right? You know that. How much money has the Department of Energy itself spent trying to push the EV mantra? Guess. Guess. Guess.
Is it above the millions?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
It's in the B.
Yeah, I don't even want to guess. I'm gonna throw up.
$15.5 billion. $15.5 billion by the Department of Energy to push people to electric vehicles they don't want.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
Keep that one handy because we're going to need it some more. How about this? Did you know that climate change is the existential crisis facing the world?
Oh yeah, like we could die tomorrow.
I don't want to be an alarmist or anything, but acid rain. No, wait, hang on a second. Global freezing. No. Hang on a second. No, wait. It's global warming. No. The glacial ice caps, polar ice caps are going to melt. No. That's not what it. Climate change.
Yeah.
Let's just call it climate change.
The religion of climate change.
That's it. Exactly. All right. Well, it is now very segmented. It actually affects genders apparently differently. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Well, you weren't paying attention to how much money they're spending on it. Did you know that the Department of State just spent $3 million for what they call girl-centered climate action in Brazil?
Wait, can they define what a girl is?
Oh, golly.
Of course not.
All right, give yourself some applause. That was good. But yeah, $3 million for girl-centered climate action in Brazil. I have not even begun to scratch the top of this list. But I got the annual airing of the grievances for the Festivus Report. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right.
Turn it up.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. On this one right here, y'all, I am talking about Alabama. Alabama, y'all. And I mean to say this show goes like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. What am I going to say, like in a week or so, when we are moving into our Chattanooga affiliate, because there's that news, by the way, in case you hadn't already heard, Rightside Radio is going live in Chattanooga in about 2 weeks. But we're also rolling off in Birmingham, of our Birmingham affiliate for now.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. I think your creative juices could find a new intro.
I think I will do all that I can and muster my ruffian mentality into forming a new mantra to speak at the half-hour mark. But yeah, so in case you hadn't heard, 2 things there. One is we're going live in Chattanooga, and we're excited about it. Just sent the contract through today, and so that happens starting January 13th, I believe. So that'll be the second full week of January. We are on air in Chattanooga. Looking forward to being out there in East Tennessee, Northwest Georgia, Northeast Alabama. That's the broadcast range for that station. And then if you're a 101.1 ruffian out of Birmingham, if that's where you listen to us daily, just know this, that is changing next week. Contract negotiations concluded with us deciding that the best thing to do is part ways. And so we are not going to be on 101.1 again beginning January 1st. So that's Wednesday?
No, yep.
Tuesday?
Next Wednesday is January 1st.
So that our last day will be next Tuesday on 101.1. But you can get us anywhere in the whole wide world by going to the World Wide Web. You can get us on Twitter. You can get us on X. I mean, that is X. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Twitch. You can also get us on our website, rightsidemedia.org, rightsidemedia.org. Let me just encourage you, if you haven't already figured it out, go do it like right now while we're talking about it. And if you go to YouTube in particular, click subscribe if you haven't already done it, because that helps us grow as a business. So yeah, get out there, find the ways you're going to keep listening to the show. And as we add radio affiliates, we'll tell you. But we are a growing company. Rightside Media is the company. We got multiple podcasts. We got radio. We got written word. All of it happening on a daily basis. And make sure you know where we are.
By the way, first time we've broadcasted out of multiple states for Rightside. Yeah. Our reach has gone into multiple states. It's the first time we are broadcasting out of 2 states.
That's exactly right. We are now a multi-state entity. Thank you very much. Thank you. By the way, speaking of multi-state, he lives in a state of confusion. Joe Biden just landed in the Virgin Islands for his last vacation in office.
Good for him.
He leaves his job in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks.
It's fitting, though.
You know why? He got a free ride on Air Force One. I mean, why not, man?
I think this is maybe a Joe Biden thing even more. Of, honey, let's go here. Okay. Honey, let's go here.
Do they serve ice cream?
Yeah.
So I look at it and wonder, do we even have a president right now? I think the world. Listen, anything can happen in 3 weeks, right? But the world is waiting and watching and believing that Biden is no longer on the job.
I think we got a multi-head president right now of John Kirby, Anthony Blinken, and the likes.
Yep, I would totally agree. You didn't include Kamala Harris. Why would that be? JP, what are you trying to say?
Nothing. I think the election spoke for that.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back on the Festivus report. If you did not hear it, give me some Frank Costanza. Give me some Frank Costanza grievances. Go ahead.
Come, newcomers. The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Oh, my gosh. Did you know, by the way, that the government, according to the Festivus report put out by Senator Rand Paul, the whole work from home thing?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, you and I don't get that luxury.
I don't want that quote luxury. I hate that.
I don't either. I think it's the most. Now, I realize there are things that can be done remotely sometimes, and I've even taken this show remote and done it because I was somewhere else and did it from a hotel room because I was traveling or whatever. But the reality is, there's a lot to be said for getting up in the morning and going to work.
Yep.
And the federal government has never gotten over the whole COVID, you want to work from home thing, which I don't know how they handle people who work in clearance level stuff. It's amazing how many people have clearances. I mean, a secret level clearance is like giving out like candy now, but how do you do clearance level work from home? Anyway, the federal government currently spends about $10 billion a year maintaining, leasing, and furnishing nearly empty office buildings because no one's there working. Let that sink in.
That's government waste to a T.
$10 billion. That's right up there with a pickleball court. All right. How about, let's see, let me go through the list here and find you a couple that I know they're going to make you mad. Okay. No, not that one. I'll do that one. Here's one. The United States Department of the Treasury granted a $700 million pandemic-era loan to a company that was a failed trucking company that was otherwise bankrupt. So basically, they bailed them out.
Yeah.
$700 million pandemic-era loan. Awesome. How about this? The National Science Foundation, that was one of the favorites that you heard that sound clip earlier from Senator Rand Paul. The National Science Foundation spent $288,563 to ensure that bird watching groups have safe spaces, which are called affinity groups.
Oh, good. I'm glad that's getting done.
What is that about? I mean, I like sitting on the back deck and watching the eagles, the egrets, the herons, the kingfishers, all of them around the ducks, all of them around my back of my. I don't need an affinity group to do it in, much less paid for by taxpayer dollars.
Why do they? Yeah, are they under attack? Why do they need a safe group?
I don't know. That's a great question. Did they feel unsafe?
Yeah, I don't know what. We're discriminating against bird watchers. Apparently.
Who was their enemy? I mean, who was out there going, watch this, fellas, I'm going to get me some bird watchers?
I can tell you, my grandmother would take me, my sister, and my cousin to go watch birds all the time. And not once, I don't think anybody was under attack doing that.
That's a high-risk environment. I'm surprised she took you.
It's like a war zone.
How about this? The Department of State spent $500,000, $500,000, to expand the U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia's #US Invest in Ethiopians social media campaign. A $500,000 social media campaign in Ethiopia to be a part of a public relations event for the U.S. Embassy.
Oh, that's important. That's $500,000 worth of importance.
That's $500,000. And what did it get us?
Nothing.
What did we get?
Whole lot of nothing.
How about the federal government spent, I don't know what this is. I look at it and think, what were they? The federal government spent $7,026,689 on various magic projects.
What?
Magic. I think it was making money disappear.
Yeah, that's the magic trick.
$7,026,689. I mean, it's pretty specific.
Yeah.
I don't have a copy of the 43-page actual report. I'm reading you the bullet points, but wow. How about this? This is real. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, because we have an institute for allergy and infectious diseases, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture spent $2.24 million on COVID experiments on cats.
Why cats? Like, what is it like?
I don't know. I mean, I hear that pigs have organs that relate to humans a lot, and so there's that. But cats, I'm pretty sure there's nothing about the feline that relates to the human.
Mm-mm.
So what is it we were why do I don't know. I don't have an answer for you here. How about this one? I don't know how to explain this, but the Department of State spent $123,066 to teach youth in Kyrgyzstan how to go viral on social media.
That's just funny.
Can they just teach us here at Rightside how to go viral on social media? That's all I want to know. Why am I paying a kid in Kyrgyzstan? This is very important to international relations, I guess. Okay, so there's also a study that was done in the National Institutes of Health. spent $1,513,299 on a study in which this is awful, but they drilled holes in cats' heads to insert electrodes and then put them on a spinning, made them spin around to study motion sickness. And I realize you're sitting there and like somewhat sickened, aghast, and like in awe of this thing. But
I mean, obviously, like Grandpa said, I think that's animal abuse.
I would agree. But it doesn't beat the one they spent $10 million on studying constipation in cats. What is it with cats?
I don't know. It's something with cats.
So far, we have COVID in cats. We have motion sickness in cats, and now we have constipation in cats.
It's very important stuff.
I'm pretty sure they were catstipated.
That was bad.
Holy cow! You can tell we're the only ones working today, man. How about this? The Agency for International Development, USAID, is spending $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq.
Really?
Yes.
Sesame Street's back?
It's called Alan Sim Sim or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, apparently they're doing like a children's show on TV in Baghdad with $20 million being paid for by USAID.
And that's important that we pay for that.
Yes, it is. So here's the other one. Big ticket item. The Navy built these things called LCS vessels. They were built down in Mobile, actually. And they were an epic failure. They were not at all what they were intended. They were like next generation. It's going to be like the stealth ships, and all this. And it wasn't really working out. They're going to spend another $90 billion on the same thing.
$90
billion on how to keep those ineffective Navy vessels afloat. $90 billion keeping failed ships afloat. They're having to repurpose them. They're having to give them a whole new purpose because their reason for existence didn't actually pan out. They were epic fails. We do, by the way, this is very important as we go to a break. You'll be happy to know two things before you go. The Department of State allocated $32,596.12 to teach breakdancing.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is an Olympic sport, or was.
It was. It was. Australia showed up big on that one, man. And then lastly, I'll say this, the National Endowment of the Arts, they have the Bearded Ladies Cabaret on ice. The Bearded Ladies Cabaret on ice got a $10,000 grant as long as they're ice skating focused on climate change.
Oh.
So let that whole thing sink in. 10,000 taxpayer dollars from the National Endowment of the Arts for a drag queen climate change ice skating show.
That sounds like hell.
That's $10,000 that I'm sure were used highly effectively to help drag queens teach the world about climate change. Can you air some more of the grievance announcement, please? And then we'll go to a break at that point.
Come, newcomers. The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Take me to a break, JP. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Going to the phones right now. That would be Jeffro from Indiana, who is driving today. Man, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good today. Not so much on Christmas Eve, but
what happened on Christmas Eve?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if I can get some of that money to study how a 96-year-old woman does break dancing.
What did you do?
Mom was fell on New Year's Eve.
Oh.
Boogered her hand up and sprained her ankle and stuff. So yeah, but thank goodness there's nothing broke.
Well,
I spent the Christmas Eve in the ER.
Well, bless her heart, and I guess yours too, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Is she healing up okay?
Yeah, she's doing good. We got her in the hospital because she can't hardly walk, and so they got to keep her there until she can get back on her foot again. So,
wow.
But everything's doing much better now. So.
Well, I'm glad. I hate that's a heck of a Christmas Eve, man. But well, and you got called into work today. I thought you were off this week.
Well, I'm always off, but I got to work occasionally. But
I just realized what you said.
Takes a little while, but I know, but you'll get it.
Sorry. Yeah, I had to put my game on there. Well, what do you think about this, man? What do you think about this Festivus report, the airing of the grievances? What do you think about this?
Oh man, I tell you what, Trump can't get in quick enough, and if Musk and Ramaswamy do their job and everything, maybe we can have a few less grievances, as far as I can tell.
I know, I agree.
Insane.
That interview, I don't know if you heard the interview I played earlier with Rand Paul, this is his Festivus report, but Rand Paul was even asked by Todd Pirro, who actually comes on Dale's show a lot, he was asked, are you concerned that your report may have to go away? And he points out that Congress will have to do the work, but I think he would be glad for his report to go away.
Oh yeah, it'd be nice. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get elected and be in a mental or in a ward in the nursing home and still be in power.
Yeah, like a certain congresswoman from Texas. That's
well, and like a president in the United States too, apparently, because they just don't have him in the ward, but he's probably maybe as cognitive as she is.
Did you hear, by the way, he just took a vacation? I mean, he's only leaving his job in 3 weeks, but he took a vacation. He and his family are now in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands.
Well, if they can just get an auto pen of him, he don't need to even be around, because that's all he does is sign stuff that somebody shoves in front of him if he's capable of signing anything yet. So an auto pen, he could be replaced with an auto pen because he hadn't been running things for 4 years.
I think we're going to find out one day. Like how much stuff. I mean, we had that big report from the Wall Street Journal last week, which was very revealing, very anecdotal. But I think we're going to find out one day how much was actually done that should never have been allowed by people who were not elected to do what they did.
Yeah, I'm wanting to know who's the puppet master that's been pulling the strings for 4 years, because, I mean, they've been telling him what to do for maybe even longer than that. Only thing they messed up on is that whoever's behind him wanted to hold their power and told him he needed to run again.
Yeah, and that's, to include his wife.
That's who made him run again, because he had no clue what he was doing. He just, I want to run again. You need to run again, Joe, because we don't want to lose our power. That's exactly what happened.
That, and she needed another cover of Vogue magazine. Hey, man, the music's about to play. You be safe on the road, and I hope Mom gets better. And bless her, Jesus, and just let us know, all right?
All right, Phil. Thank you, now.
All right, take care.
An eye on her.
All right, buddy.
See ya.
Well, that's a heck of a thing to have to do, but I'm glad he was there for her. But listen, the airing of the grievances, we can mock it. At the same time, we need to be keenly aware of it, because these are our taxpayer dollars. And if DOJ isn't allowed by Congress to do its job and actually make cuts, then there needs to be a revolt of some kind. I mean, we need to have literally we need a new crowd in there, because if you can't get it done, then what the heck? All right, you guys. Yes, we were live today, and yes, we're live again tomorrow. You guys, we'll see you then. Don't forget, in the meantime, that there are more of us than there are of them. And oh, by the way, God is still on his throne. Stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.